Hello, friends. Have you ever thought why one person learns more in less time? How does that person remember more? And how do they stay calm and focused even in difficult situations, while another person gets confused with little information? The difference is not luck. The difference is how we use our brain. In today's world, every minute our brain is filled with mobile, social media, stress, and pressure. Still, we are expected to think fast, learn quickly, and make better decisions. But the truth is, we were never taught how our brain actually works. This audiobook summary gives the answer to this big problem. It is about a book that can change your thinking, your study, your productivity, and your way of seeing life. The name of the book is Brain Rules, written by Dr. John Medina. This is not a motivational speech and not an imaginary theory. It is based on modern brain science. It explains how our brain works and how we can get powerful results by understanding these rules. In this video, you will learn how stress destroys your brain, how movement increases intelligence, why multitasking is an illusion, how sleep is the strongest tool for memory, and what brain rules successful people follow. If you are a student, working professional, content creator, or someone who wants to improve life, every minute of this video is valuable, so watch till the end. You may find the secret to use your brain in a better way. Chapter 1. Exercise is the real key to a sharp brain. Most people think that to make the brain sharp, we should study more, read more books, and collect more information. But the first and most important lesson of brain rules is different. John Medina says, if you want to improve your brain, you must start moving your body. The human brain is not made to grow by sitting on a chair. Millions of years ago, our ancestors lived in forests. Their brain developed while walking, running, hunting, and staying safe from danger. Even today, our brain works in the same way. When we walk, run, or do light exercise, oxygen and blood flow increase in the brain. This makes brain cells more active. Research shows that people who walk fast for 20 to 30 minutes daily have better memory, focus, and learning speed than those who sit all day. That is why many top companies have walking meetings. Movement is the most natural way to activate the brain. Dr. Medina says exercise improves not only the body, but also mood and decision-making. When we are physically active, our brain releases chemicals like dopamine and serotonin. These reduce stress and make us mentally positive. This means a person who moves daily stays calm, makes better decisions, and does not panic in difficult situations. In one interesting experiment, students who did light exercise before studying performed better in tests. Students who studied all day sitting lost focus quickly. This clearly shows that for study, work, or creative thinking, movement works like fuel for the brain. The biggest lesson of this chapter is, if you want to become intelligent, add movement to your daily routine. Use stairs instead of lifts. Walk between your work. Give your brain the environment where it performs best. Remember, an active body is the strong base of a sharp mind. Chapter 2. The brain is built to survive. We often think our brain is made for studying, calculations, or solving complex problems, but the second chapter of Brain Rules tells a deep truth. John Medina says the human brain first developed for survival, not for sitting in a classroom. Millions of years ago, our ancestors faced danger all the time: wild animals, hunger, weather, and unknown places. In that environment, the brain that quickly noticed danger and made the right decision survived. Because of this, even today, our brain pays more attention to danger, emotions, and sudden events. If something touches us emotionally or alerts us, our brain remembers it quickly. But boring and repetitive information is ignored, even if it is important. That is why we remember a scary or exciting childhood event for years, but forget what we studied yesterday. Medina says the brain quickly notices patterns and contrast. When something suddenly changes, the sound becomes loud, or there's a twist in a story, the brain becomes alert. That is why stories, real-life examples, and visuals are easier to remember. The practical meaning is, if you want to teach or learn something, connect information with story and emotion. The biggest lesson of this chapter is, if you want your brain to take something seriously, make it meaningful and emotionally relevant. Whether it is study, work, or life decisions, if things are not connected to your survival, future, or emotions, your brain will not give them priority. So do not keep your goals only in words, imagine them with feeling. The brain gives full power to things that help you survive and grow. Chapter 3. Every brain is different. We often think that if one method works for us, it will work for everyone. But this chapter of Brain Rules breaks this idea. John Medina clearly says no two human brains are the same. Every brain is shaped by different experiences, genetics, and environment. That is why every person learns, understands, and reacts in a different way. When we try to teach everyone in the same way in classrooms, offices, or homes, we ignore this natural diversity. Some people learn faster with visuals. Some understand better by listening. Some need to learn by doing. This does not mean someone is smart or weak. It only means every brain has a different learning system. The author says children also have different learning speed and attention span. A child who looks slow is not necessarily less intelligent. Maybe their brain processes information differently. The same applies to adults. If you are stuck with one method and not getting results, the problem may not be you, but the method that does not match your brain. The biggest lesson of this chapter is, understand your brain. Know in which environment you perform best. Know at what time your focus is strongest and how you remember things faster. When you start working according to your brain, learning becomes easier and growth feels natural. Remember, successful people do not copy others. They understand their strengths and use them in the right direction. Chapter 4. Attention, Focus, and the Myth of Multitasking. In today's world, we proudly say we can multitask. We use mobile, work, and talk at the same time. But Brain Rules says this is a big illusion. According to John Medina, the human brain can focus on only one thing at a time. When we multitask, the brain quickly switches between tasks. This switching reduces both performance and accuracy. Research shows that people who think they are expert multitaskers actually make more mistakes and remember less. When you check notifications during important work or keep changing attention, the brain takes many minutes to focus again. This means multitasking does not save time, it wastes more time. Medina also says human attention works best in small blocks of about 10 minutes. If information is given in a boring way without breaks, the brain slowly loses interest. That is why long lectures and monotonous presentations make us tired. But if we add stories, examples, or new angles after some time, the brain becomes active again. The biggest lesson of this chapter is, if you want to be productive, stop multitasking and start single-tasking. Do one task at a time. Remove distractions and let your brain focus fully. A focused mind gives quality results, and quality creates success in the long run. Chapter 5. How memory is formed and how it breaks. We often complain that we forget things. We forget names. What we study goes out of our mind quickly. But Brain Rules says memory is not weak. The way we use it is wrong. John Medina explains that the brain does not store information permanently in one step. It builds memory slowly in layers. When we learn something new, it first goes into short-term memory. If we do not repeat it, think about it, or connect it with meaning, the brain removes it. But if the same information is connected with emotions, stories, or real-life examples, the brain converts it into long-term memory. This chapter explains repetition alone is not enough. Spacing and timing are also important. Instead of repeating something many times in one day, it is more effective to revise it in small parts on different days. That is why last-minute cramming often fails, but slowly learned things stay longer. The author also says our memory prefers visual information. If you only hear words, the impact is less, but if you create a picture, imagination, or scene in your mind, your memory becomes much stronger. The biggest lesson of this chapter is, if you want a strong memory, connect information with meaning, emotion, and imagination. The brain keeps what it finds important. Chapter 6. Sleep is the most powerful tool for the brain. In today's fast life, we think sleep is a waste of time, but Brain Rules says this idea is dangerous. Medina says sleep is not a luxury, it is a basic biological need of the brain. When we sleep, the brain does not rest. It processes the information we learned during the day, filters it, and stores it in the right memory areas. Research shows that people who get full and good sleep have better learning speed, creativity, and decision-making ability. Lack of sleep slows reaction time, weakens focus, and reduces control over emotions. This means trying to work more with less sleep actually destroys productivity. The author also says the brain clears toxins during sleep. If you keep reducing sleep, these toxins build up. This can cause memory problems and mental fatigue in the long term. That is why after staying awake all night, the brain feels heavy and dull. The biggest lesson of this chapter is, if you want the best performance from your brain, make sleep a priority. Late-night scrolling, irregular sleep timing, and sacrificing sleep are not shortcuts to success. They lead to burnout. A person who gives rest to the brain can stay sharp and focused for a long time. Chapter 7. Stress is the biggest enemy of the brain. We often think a little stress helps us work harder, but Brain Rules says long-term stress is like poison for the brain. The author explains that when we are stressed, the brain goes into survival mode. In this state, the brain focuses on danger, not on learning, understanding, or creative thinking. During stress, a hormone called cortisol increases. For a short time, it can help, but if cortisol stays high for a long time, it damages memory and focus. That is why people under stress forget small things and feel confused while making decisions. The author says stress weakens the part of the brain responsible for logical thinking and planning. This means decisions made under stress are often emotional, not rational. That is why we make mistakes under pressure that we would not make with a calm mind. The biggest lesson of this chapter is, if you want a sharp brain, learn to manage stress. Regular exercise, proper sleep, and some silence help the brain a lot. A calm mind learns, grows, and moves in the right direction. Chapter 8. Senses. The brain learns more by seeing. We often think learning happens only by listening or reading. But Brain Rules says this idea is incomplete. John Medina says the human brain is multisensory. It understands information better when many senses work together. Especially seeing has the strongest impact on the brain. Research shows people forget most of what they hear, but they remember what they see for a long time. That is why images, charts, videos, and real-life demonstrations are easier to understand. The brain processes visual information much faster than text. Medina says when a concept is explained only in words, the brain sees it as abstract. But when the same concept is connected with images or examples, the brain treats it as real. That is why good presentations and engaging videos are more effective. The biggest lesson of this chapter is, if you want to teach or learn something, use visuals. Create scenes in your mind. Imagine examples and make information visible. The brain learns faster and longer what it can see. Chapter 9. Gender and the Brain. This chapter explains a sensitive but important topic in a scientific way. Medina says there are some natural differences between male and female brains, but these differences do not mean superiority or inferiority. They are due to evolution and biology, not ability. Research shows men and women may process information, express emotions, and communicate in different ways. For example, many women understand emotional signals and facial expressions quickly. Many men may be better in spatial tasks and direction sense. But these are tendencies, not rules. Every person is different. The author says we should not see these differences as stereotypes. When we create gender-based expectations, we limit real potential. Growth happens when we accept these differences and use them in the right way. The biggest lesson of this chapter is, if you want the best performance from your brain, focus not only on skills and knowledge, but also on relationships and happiness. A happy brain learns faster, makes better decisions, and stays successful for a long time. Chapter 10. Happiness, Relationships, and the Brain. We often think we will be happy after success, but Brain Rules shows the opposite. John Medina says the human brain cannot work properly without social connection. Our brain gets energy from relationships, belonging, and emotional bonding. Research shows people with healthy relationships have lower stress, better memory, and stronger mental health. Loneliness can be as dangerous as long-term stress,